It's often said in the West that one of the worst things you can be accused of being is a racist, and for very good reason. This is because we in the West, more specifically the United States, have gotten to the point that regardless of our racist past, we now see all men and women as created equal, regardless of race, ethnicity, or culture. However, it seems that in an attempt to correct our racist mistakes of the past, we can sometimes overcorrect, and this leads to a radical form of colorblindness. Now, colorblindness is not inherently a bad thing necessarily. Actually, it is a very good thing in many, many circumstances. However, there is one area where colorblindness can interfere negatively. Put simply, if colorblindness becomes too severe, it can make us be blind to more than just skin color, but also to culture. That right there, and how it relates to how we as Westerners interpret and read the Bible, is what I want to discuss with you all today. So, hello everybody, my name is Riley Fowler, and today I want to go over chapters 2 and 3 of the book Misreading Scripture with Western Eyes. We previously went over the introduction and first chapter in a previous video, so if you'd like to see that, if this interests you and you want to see the first chapter and introduction, you can go see that on the previous video. I'll have that link below. But today I'm going to go over chapters 2 and 3 of the book. These two chapters cover race, ethnicity, and culture in the ancient Near Eastern times and how it differs from our own Western culture, and how taking thoughts and understanding from our own Western culture can interfere with the writings of the ancient Near Eastern time and their culture. Now, of course, no video I make, no video anybody makes is ever going to be able to come up to par with actually reading the books for yourself, reading this book and chapter for yourself. So I strongly encourage you, if you find this and the previous video to be interesting, please go and pick up the book for yourself. It'll be linked down below, not an affiliate link. It'll just be linked to Amazon down below. And please pick it up and read it. It's very helpful for us Christians, and it's very, very eye-opening. And I purposely only scratch the surface here, and I actually don't go over big points that the book has, because I don't want to be plagiarizing the book, and I don't want to be taking anything away from the book. I want people to see this and find it interesting so that they go read the book for themselves. So there's going to be a lot I don't include in this video for that very purpose. So in this video, I'm going to be giving 4 points about race, ethnicity, and language and culture in the Bible. So 2 of the points are going to be more focused around the race and such in the Bible, and the other 2 will be focused on the language and such that's used in the Bible. And we're going to go over the culture and stuff and see the stark contrast that it has with the Western view of race and language and etc. And getting right into it, I'm going to start by pointing out that even though our Western view of race has urged us to not make generalizations about various ethnicities, about people who are of various races, the biblical authors actually didn't have a problem doing this at all. And here's what I mean. In the ancient times, take Rome as an example, the people were perfectly fine with asserting that somebody did something because of their ethnicity. For example, Romans would be perfectly fine, and it wouldn't be seen as racist for Romans to assert that, oh, somebody did something because they are a Jew. However, if we were today to say something like that, people would immediately become suspicious of us and think that we're being racist because it seems uncomfortable, it seems discriminatory. And after all, that does seem right to us because it goes without being said, it's one of our mores in the West, that if somebody is said to have done something because of their ethnicity, we must be being racist and we must be being discriminatory, because our view of everybody being equal has tried to lump everybody into one culture when we all have different cultures because of our ethnicity. And this can cause us to project these views onto the biblical writings, and it can almost make us assume that the New Testament area, Rome, for example, was post-racial like we are today, when that isn't always the case at all, actually. And piggybacking off that discrimination point, The second point I want to make about race in this video is the fact that our history in the West of racial discrimination, and therefore our knowledge about that racial discrimination, can actually affect the way we read Scripture and cause us to misread Scripture. And I don't think there's a better point for this than to go to the example of Moses' wife in the Bible. We read in Numbers that Moses married a woman, but more specifically, he married a Cushite woman. And because of that, Miriam and Aaron were not happy at all. And so when the average Westerner looks at that and says, okay, I wonder why they weren't happy about this, and then they investigate it more, they may find a detail about how the Cushites were dark-skinned people. More specifically, they were dark-skinned Africans. Now, almost immediately from this, I've seen this a lot. There's very famous commentaries that actually say this, and it's incorrect. It can cause us Westerners to think that, oh, the reason Miriam and Aaron were upset is because Moses had married a dark-skinned person, or he had married into a slave race, or he had married into the Cushites, which were lower. And that's just not true. But that's what our Western interpretation tells us right away. But again, remember, this just actually isn't the case at all, because the Cushites were actually a wealthy race, and the Hebrew people were the slave race. Remember, they had just been in slavery in Egypt. They were the slaves, not the Cushites. The Cushites were actually very wealthy people. It's actually much more likely that the reason that Miriam and Aaron were upset is because they thought Moses was marrying above himself and being presumptuous or being prideful by marrying above himself rather than marrying below. But notice what happened there. We as Westerners took our own knowledge and view from our own past and projected it onto the biblical text, and that caused a very, very distinct and key misreading of Scripture, and that was very significant. So having these cultural mores that we have and projecting them onto the Bible can cause very significant misreadings that we have to be careful about. All right, moving away from those 2 points, I want to now focus on language and how our understanding of our own culture and how our language pertains to our own culture can influence the way we read Scripture and how language influenced the ancient Near Eastern cultures. The first point I want to make here is one that is vital in realizing and understanding the ancient cultures and even our own culture. And that is, what we value most, what we find important in our own culture, will be reflected in our language. A good starting example for this is the example of rice. In English, we have one word for rice. Whether or not it's in the field being processed, we're eating it right now, it's just called rice. That's what it is. However, the authors pointed out in the book that other cultures may have more words for rice. They may have a word for rice when it's growing. They may have a word for rice when it's being processed or cooked. They may have a word for rice when it's actually ready to eat, when it's edible. They have all these different words for it because that's what they value more than we value rice. An example of this for our Westerners is that when we say we have a car, we typically don't just stop at saying we have a car. We have a truck, we have a sedan, we have a minivan, we have a hatchback, whatever we may say, we may go on and on. We have all these different words for it because in the United States, cars are of vital importance to us. We all drive cars. And so because of this, our words reflect the value. They reflect the importance of something in our own culture. A good biblical example of this that actually interferes with how we read Scripture is in the word love. In English, we have one word for love, and it's that word. It's love. We may try and add things on to say, oh, it's brotherly love, it's motherly love, something like that. However, when it comes to the word itself, we still only have one word for it. Whereas, in contrast to this, in Greek, and especially in the ancient times, they have 4 different words for love. They have philios, agape, eros, and storge, I think. So it reflects the importance of love in their culture versus to the importance of it in our own culture. What's much more interesting here is that it seems as if the distinguishing between the different types of loves was what was really prioritized in their culture, where we today will say, oh, I love pizza. Oh, no, I love my mom. oh, I love my brother. But in reality, we overuse the word love and it seems to lose its value. They had very specific distinctions between these different types of love so that it wouldn't lose its value, and so that it would always maintain the power that it does hold and the meaning that it holds. This is why it's important when reading the Bible to really understand the original Greek, to go back and see what the authors understood, especially in their time, and why they were writing what they were writing rather than something else. And doing that can really help us to read the Bible much more clearly. The second point about language in this video, and the final point of the video, is one that is going to be very brief. And that is, put very simply, that especially in other cultures, what is said is not always what is meant. In the West, we say that you should say what you mean and mean what you say. But that's just not always how it is in other cultures. And the simplest way that I can describe what I mean, and the way that's really going to get the point across, is by pointing to an example that the authors gave in the book, because it really is a simple but powerful and good one. So in the book, one of the authors mentioned that they needed to translate for somebody who was visiting Indonesia. And the person visiting was asking this native of Indonesia if they could get a ride. They were asking help for transportation tomorrow. And the Indonesian replied in their language to the author saying, yes, I can. So to us, that would seem like, oh yeah, he can absolutely give me a ride tomorrow. Good, I'm set, got that figured out. However, what's interesting is when the author translated it into English for the visitor, he did not say yes, he said maybe. And that's because the Indonesian did not mean yes, absolutely. He meant maybe, even though the word he used was for yes. So keeping this in mind, it can actually really help us when we examine the language and the culture and the surrounding context of passages where it may seem weird that something was said or written in the Bible, or it may seem almost contradictory in some form. But when we understand the context, understand the language, it can really shed light on all of these verses and on the Bible as a whole, honestly. So the big key here is the one that's going to be very key throughout every video I make on this, and throughout all the points about the biblical passages and about misreading scripture. And that is, if we take care to examine, realize, and handle our prior presuppositions, especially our Western ones, before reading the Bible, we will be able to read the Bible more clearly by noticing our presuppositions and then working to act to reflect on them and to inherit the view of the time rather than our own view. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope it was helpful. Again, I'm going to have the book down below for you to purchase if you would like. Again, not an affiliate link. I did not sign up to be an affiliate. You simply just click the link. It's not going to benefit me at all. And yeah, I hope that it was helpful. If you liked the video, please be sure to subscribe, like, comment. Let me know your thoughts. If you're happy to read comments, because they're really interesting. I find them interesting. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much, and have a great day. God bless.